This is probably the shortest chapter that Walter Wangerin puts into this novel. The words of Luke, one of Paul's traveling companions. You can actually read this for yourself. Read his account of what's going on. A lot of what is in here is drawn from Luke's reminiscences. They're written in a book that we call the Acts of the Apostles. They come right after the Gospels in the Bible. And in fact, if you look at the start of Luke and then the start of the Acts of the Apostles, you can see they were really kind of written as one single book that kind of got split apart. Because both times he talks about addressing the book to somebody named Theophilus, which means lover of God. And the Acts of the Apostles begins in the first book, O Theophilus. And so you get the sense that the two are one continuous work. Anyhow, in Wangerin's version of this story, he has an entire chapter, and it comes from the words of Luke, who says this: After spending some time in Antioch, Paul departed and went from place to place through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples and the churches as he went. There's a lot that's in that. Not everything that's in the New Testament fills in every last detail. Probably a couple years went into that one verse, maybe even longer. We have some of Paul's letters. Some of them that he refers to, we don't have. They just aren't there. Some people think that there are bits and pieces of some of those letters that are embedded in others. And you can sort of get a sense of that. But it's hard to break them apart somehow. And as he went, and over the time that he was writing, his experiences interlocked with the experiences of the people that he had preached to. And a lot of the letters are not what you would call formal theology. They're advice on how to handle things. Advice on how to celebrate the Lord's Supper when people come together. Advice on how to solve problems when people are arguing over things with each other within the local church. Advice on how to provide leadership and how to train people to be leaders when we're not around. How to deal with money. That was a big one that Jesus was teaching people about. And all the time, they're probably repeating in ways that are not written in his letters, but are being done by other people, the stories that Jesus told, the parables, the outright teachings that Jesus gave, things like the Beatitudes, the Lord's Prayer, stories about Jesus' life, everything that happened with his disciples, but especially everything that happened in the last week of his life, and right afterward that happened at the start of his ongoing life. And all of that got woven together and put together into the New Testament in really what was a very comparatively short time. A couple generations. The next generation wrote some things down, and some of them probably used Paul's name on their own letters, saying, this is what he taught us. And those we call some of them the pastoral letters, letters to Titus, letters to Timothy, that may have come from Paul's hand or may have been repetition of things that Paul had told those people, set down before they got lost. People were not thinking at that time that they were writing a holy book, but the Holy Spirit was working with them to make sure that that's what came out. Something that we can all learn about and learn from. And the whole purpose of writing this novel and the purpose of me reading it aloud is to encourage people to do exactly that. So pardon me for this digression. And the next video, we'll get back to the story as Walter Reingren writes it, and we'll hear from Timothy.